Recording in progress. There we go.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm trying to get the faces back up again.
All right. So I just wanted to let us all introduce ourselves, and maybe what I'm going to do to make that happen is stop sharing my screen so that we can see. This might solve all of Mike's problems. But I want you to just, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and to Ira first, but then and maybe we'll just call on the next person on your screen. And we're trying to be really, keep this to an hour. So if you can just be quick and say your name, if you've participated in Mad River Watch before and what town you are coming from, that would be great. So go ahead, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Coich. I live in Faithton. I'm the Mad River Watch coordinator for this summer, and we'll be learning alongside all of you and look forward to seeing you throughout the summer. So any questions you have, email me or call me.
My name's Ira Shaddis. I'm the stewardship manager with Friends of the Mad River. It's also my first real Mad River Watch season, working on the program this year. And I am calling in from my house in Montpelier, so not in the Mad River Valley. So my heart is there.
And I see Annie and Jula next.
Hi, my name's Jula, and this is Annie. The last name is Fender. We've been doing this 4 or 5 years, and we're happy to be back.
Thank you. Who do you see next? I'll say Joel. You're on mute, but.
Hi, Joel Rhodes. I live in Wheatsfield, and I've participated for a couple seasons now.
And Jenny? Good to see you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Morris. It's my first time, so I'm here to learn all about what I might have to do.
Great, welcome. And Jenny, are you in Wheatsfield?
Wheatsfield, yes.
Okay, great. And Rick, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I live at the bottom of the Mad River, right next door to the small hydro dam, and I've lived here for 40 years, so I've got lots of river experience, but I've only participated with the Friends of the Mad River for about 2 or 3 years.
And Alice, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm here for the summer till October in my sister-in-law's house in Warren, Vermont. And so I'm a new participant. I look forward to meeting you all and helping out.
Great, hello, welcome. Hi, Mary, you're next on mine.
Hi, I'm Mary O'Leary, and I'm from Facein, but I'm in my car in Montpelier right now while my daughter is swimming. And this will be our first time participating.
Ooh, a cold swim.
So Peter or Peter John?
Yeah, it's Peter.
Okay.
I'm a new participant, hopefully volunteer, and we built a house in 2016 right on the Mad River at Butternut Hill and Route 100. And I've been working with Ira on the Storm Watch program, and I'm very excited to kind of help if I can with the River Watch program.
Our first organization will be back in 1960.
Is it Fraser?
Yes, organization dates back also to
Hold on one sec. Trying to figure out. Does somebody have radio or something on?
International.
Thanks.
So my name is Fraser Danielovich. I actually live in Burlington. A friend of mine that I work with, Christopher Butch, who lives in Moortown, recommended touching base with you guys and just looking to contribute time and volunteer. Did Green Up Day and on the Mad River, and just looking to put some time in and help out any way I can.
Great, thank you, welcome. Hi, Ruth.
I wasn't sure if you were unmuting me or I was.
I was doing both. I was afraid.
I'm Ruth. I live in Wheatsfield. This will be my 3rd year volunteering. And I gotta say, you guys do a really good job of making sure that every Monday morning is just a perfect Vermont day. It's a real joy.
Great, thanks, Ruth. Hi, Julie, we're introducing ourselves. Welcome. You want to go next, or is that too on the spot? Go ahead.
No, I can go. I'm sorry I'm late.
Nope.
I'm sorry I'm late. I'm Julie Westervelt. I've been a river watcher for this is the fourth year, fourth year,
Like that.
along with my daughter Ingrid. We've just loved getting to know these little hidden gems along the river and tributaries, places we don't normally see. And then it's also just gratifying to, know that there's human eyes on the environment, just keeping track of things. So we're happy to be part of that.
Perfect, thank you. Mike, you want me to unmute you? Oh. Are you there, Mike? Can you unmute yourself? So everyone, that's Mike Ware.
Unmute. There we go. How's that? You got me.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike Ware. I've been with you for about 100 years, I think. And I'm ready to go again.
Great. And you live in Waitsfield, right?
Waitsfield.
Great. Welcome. So Annie.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Annie Parsons. This is my husband.
I'm Chris.
And
I'm Boone.
Hi, Chris and Boone and Annie.
And we are zooming in from Warren, and we read about this meeting in the Valley Reporter. And so we wanted to check in and check it out and see what we could do to help. My dog has got my hair.
The dog wants to be welcome too.
Yes.
Good.
So yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And Mary.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mary McCann. I live in the old high school in Waitsfield and spend a lot of time in the river. So I've known people who've volunteered to help in the past, and I thought I would just find out what you guys are up to.
Great, thank you. Well, welcome. And I think Kaylee, is that how you pronounce your name? I don't know if you're with us or not.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I joined a minute late. I'm not sure what. Are we just doing introductions or?
Yes, just say your name and what you're doing here.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm like a Steward MRV coordinator intern. I'm working with the Chamber of Commerce and Friends of the Mad River. So I'm just here listening in. So yeah.
Good to see you, Kaylee. I know you met with Ira the other day, so
I did, yeah.
Glad to see you for the first time.
Yeah.
On the Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that we'll get going here, and let's hope that when I do this, Mike, and share my screen, it doesn't mess everything up for you. Give me one sec. Okay, so can everybody see this welcome screen? Okay.
Yeah.
And my arrows are not working. Okay, we've seen that one. Okay, so we're a little bit behind already, but that's great to see everyone and to hear a little bit from you. I'll be brief and just sort of provide you a little bit of information about Friends of the Mad River and the history of the Mad River Watch program, but then we'll just jump right into what we've reimagined for 2021, just so you have a sense of what this program is all about and what it would look like to volunteer for it. And then we'll be sure to save some time at the end to answer your questions, just so that you feel like you can really get your mind around what this thing is. So moving on, just want to share with you the mission of the Friends of the Mad River is really nested in this community, and it's to steward the healthy land and the clean water for this community and its future generations. And we have this tagline, healthy land, clean water, vibrant community, because it's sort of like the three-legged stool that everything we do is related to. And we think those things are very intimately interconnected. And the way we do that work, the way we achieve that mission is we really try to bring people together to learn, to conserve, and to celebrate. And each program that we run, including Mad River Watch, tries to do a little bit of all of those things. There's a lot of learning, there's a lot of conserving of the natural resources, and there's hopefully, with all of us, a lot of celebrating of this beautiful place we live and learning about the nature that's all around us. Oh, sorry, the list across the bottom is just some of the programs that we run that's from our website. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I'm happy to talk with anyone who's interested in any of the other things that we do. And Lisa and Ira really, and I are the 2.5 staff people here. And we are working with our board of directors, with donors, with partnering organizations, with businesses, towns, landowners, and maybe some of you see your faces on this picture. And this is us doing a little celebrating at the end of one of the Mad River Watch seasons. And, you know, I think the heart of this program is the volunteers. So I'm really glad we've been kind of building this up for a while, and now here we are, and it's really exciting to us. So thank you. So this person might also look familiar. So the program, we wrote a lot about the Mad River Watch program last year in our 30th anniversary. There's a lot of information out in the Valley Reporter, on our blog, on our website, about what we learned over the past 37 years of the Mad River Watch program. And, you know, I'm gonna say a little bit more in a little bit, but I'm not gonna go into that right now, but we have definitely learned a ton. The volunteers have helped massively. We understand trends that we didn't understand before. We captured a lot of change in this landscape. So I think that this program has been wildly successful in a lot of ways. And we have always been about a person going to the river, paying attention, enjoying that moment, collecting really important, relevant information, and then sharing that with the community. And that's the thing that we have wanted. We want to make sure all of these sort of relevant information helping this community and engaging people in the river stays true as we move this program forward. So as we've been calling it, Mad River Watch 2.0, the goals of this upgrade have really been pretty varied. But number one, we really wanted to broaden and deepen the volunteers' experience. So we wanted to offer different opportunities for different kinds of people. You'll notice that we've included art this year, and we're trying to sort of build an observational focus of this program. We don't want it just to appeal to people who care about bottles and science and chemistry data, but we also want to offer you all a chance to really get to know these sites. And to what Julie had just said, you know, I think we need, as things change, we need to really have eyes and ears out there on the landscape, and that's what this community can do. And I think we can really pay attention to things all around us, and that's the goal here. We also want to learn from past data. So, you know, 3 decades of research, we learned that the river, after it rains, there is elevated turbidity. There's the elevated E. coli. We've learned which tributaries have problems with phosphorus. We've learned all sorts of things. We watched acid rain recovery happen with our data. There's a whole 80-page report from 2016 if you want to investigate some of that. But we've adjusted Mad River Watch so we're not learning the same thing moving forward. We're trying to learn new things. And we really want to gather observations that and help us respond to emerging environmental concerns. So Friends has been really focused for the last 2 years on climate change and just being aware that we might be there might be anticipated changes, but there might be unanticipated changes. So the idea of getting folks out with your eyes wide open and awareness makes a lot of sense when we don't exactly know what to expect, but we do know some things to expect. So we have adjusted this program to account for those things and to allow us to sort of have our eyes wide open. We really want also to identify opportunities for action. So you're going to notice that we want to track pollutants. Like in the past, because our sites have been really the same sites every year, and they will continue to be similar sites every year, we think, we hope. But I think we want to allow you to be a little bit more nimble. And if you are interested, if you find, you're going to be able to test the water, like the phosphorus, for example, the phosphate in the field, and we're not going to need to take it to a lab and find out really specific high quality data. You're going to have a little test strip. You're going to know if the phosphorus is elevated. And if it is, we're going to invite you to go upstream to another site to see, to learn more, like where is this coming from? So there's sort of an inquiry that you're invited to participate in. You don't have to, but if we find information, we're inviting you to kind of be a detective and head further upstream. And we're going to guide that process. We're going to tell you where to go and things like that. But you know, it's just an invitation that's there because we really do want to be more nimble and be able to really find some of the sources of these pollutants, and work with our neighbors and our friends in our community to resolve them. And also, you know, Friends has always been about stewardship and conservation of our natural resources. And this is not this is not new to us, and it's not new to the Mad River Watch program, but we wanted to sort of institutionalize taking care of these sites a little bit more. And for those of you who participated last year, you know that we started talking about stewardship and adopting sites. And some of you really helped to do that at certain sites and really invested a lot of time in that. And we're going to have each of these sites have an opportunity for stewardship. Some will have much more need than others, but really we want to know what the sites need. So in this first year, we're going to be doing a lot of that kind of exploring. And we want to track change over time. So this first year, 2021 of our new program is just sort of phase one of this new thing. And next year, we're going to bring in a different kind of component that's really, really high quality data at very few sites that can, over time, collect high quality data that we will paint a picture in 15, 20, 30 years. So we can be nimble now and find pollutants and observe change, and we can over time really have high quality data. So we're going to try to do both of those things, and we're kind of splitting up the years where we figure each of them out. Next year, also at those really high quality data sites, we're going to be broadening the field season to include the spring runoff and the fall flood season. So in order to capture that really good data, we have to extend outside the 3 months of the summer season. And that may or may not be a volunteer project, but the data, there will be that kind of high, few sites, high quality data next year. All right, so essentially, to just give you a little bit of an overview of like what it looks like, we're going to dive into this a little more deeply, but essentially it's a field-based program. There are 6 field days, so that's exactly the same as last year. You, however, can go on a Sunday or a Monday this year. Thanks to Lisa for her schedule and making time for that. We wanted to allow for weekend time for those people that works better for. But we're going to ask that you be consistent. So if Sundays work better for you, we're going to ask you to choose Sundays. And if Mondays work better for you, we're going to ask you to choose Mondays. And be the same throughout the season. And that just helps us, you know, it's a lot easier for us, for example, to compare site data that's collected on a Sunday than it will be for us to compare that to data that's collected on a Monday. So we need to make sure we're kind of even so that we have some upstream and some downstream sites on both days. So we'll be behind the scenes trying to figure out how this is going to work once you tell us what sites you're interested in and what days you're interested in. But we're going to try to accommodate your interests and try to make sure we have some comparisons across the watershed when we have the same flow conditions, which is generated by the day. We're asking, same as last year and the years before, that the data collection be only in the morning. So it can be whatever time you want in the morning, but only in the morning. And that again has to do with comparing data. It's a lot easier if, you know, if the roughly the same flow condition is happening at each of the sites for comparing data. And this year, goodbye field sheets, and hello tablets and phones. We're greeting the new century, 21 years too late. But we're excited to the capability that this offers in collecting data and walking you through a process. So we have developed an app with this program that is it's kind of like a program that allows you to create an app, and it's a data, it'll say, what are you going to do now? And it'll ask you and it'll prompt you and you'll just enter the data that you're seeing. But it does require that you have an iOS or an Android tablet or phone. And if you don't have one, we're going to have a very limited number of those to be able to share with folks. But we're happy, we want to make sure that that doesn't limit your participation. We understand that like digital data collection may limit your participation, but not the materials. We want to help make sure that we can make this happen for folks. And just as is always true, some of these sites are down steep banks and over cliffs, and maybe that's a little exaggerating, but it does take some dexterity to get to some of them, and you will have site choice and you will get to choose. I mean, again, we're going to have to figure things out once we figure out what everybody wants to do, and we appreciate your patience with that. But I think it should be known that like you're going to be walking down to some river sites, and many of them have not such easy access. Some of them have very easy access. So it runs the gamut. And we're going to ask that you visit at least one site, but more if you're interested. And I think each site's going to take longer than they did last year because you're doing a little bit more at each site, and there's an intention to invest in observing more things at that site. So if you're comparing to last year, it won't be the same kind of time commitment to do the same number of sites. And we just want you to think that through. And in this year, because this is our first year and we're trying to build this program to be really successful after 37 more years, we really ask for your patience as we figure this out. We have myself and the board of directors and a consultant started on this in October of last year. Ira joined the team to helping figure it out in January. Lisa picked up in March, and we are all now one big team that is excited to welcome you, but we are really figuring this out, and we need your help because the thing we haven't known is how this is going to work for volunteers. And we really, this year, we need to hear from you what works, what doesn't work, what's fun, what you'd like more of, what you'd like less of, all that kind of stuff. We're super open to hearing that. And we want to make this program better for next year. So we hope you can help us. All right, so now to the more specifics of the field day and what that might look like. I'm going to walk you through it and in the big picture general kind of a way. So how do you get there and get yourself situated? Essentially, you're just going to review what you know about the site, check the weather, dress for the conditions like you always would before you walk out the door. You're going to get your gear together. You're going to have gotten that already from us, which will include different things this year than it has in the past. Those phosphate and nitrate test strips, some sampling bottles, but not as many as before, a temperature and a conductivity probe. And conductivity is one of the exciting things we're measuring this year that gets at how much sodium chloride is on the roads and going into the water. And some art supplies if you're interested. And you're going to drive or walk to your sites. And then you're going to get that phone or that tablet out and open up that Fulcrum app. So what we're going to do in the training is make sure you know how to do that and make sure you know how to do the rest of this stuff. But your next job at the site is to take it all in, to just sit there and what do you see? What are you noticing? What's there? And your next job is to note down in the fulcrum map the time, the weather, the temperature of the air, and other things that you're noticing. You are gonna, it's like I mentioned, fulcrum's gonna walk you through that. And we're gonna set it up so that it is in the order that you need it to be in and it all makes sense, but it will be probably clunky at first and we will accept your input. You're going to take some pictures of the stream banks to capture that perspective. We want to look at erosion and how it's changing over time with photographs. The Fulcrum app will store those pics. So you'll take them and it'll enter it into that app. And you're going to take pictures of anything else you think is notable. If there's something like a really cool print, a wildlife print, you'll take a picture of that. Although I think that's coming up in a little bit, but anything that's interesting, you'll take a picture of. And it's just important to say that, you know, these broad observations are important to start with because we don't want you to hone in on something very specific and maybe miss some big picture things as we have these eyes and ears out across the watershed. So when the actual water quality testing that we're going to do is going to also look a little different. There's this little, like I said, this probe that will test the water temperature and the conductivity. And there will be test strips for nitrate and phosphate. And you're going to record those in the Fulcrum app. And, you know, like I said before, like if we're all testing in this around the same time of day on either a Sunday or a Monday, we can get a sense by comparing those test strips of where we have problems with pollutants entering the waterway or that conductivity measurement that's measuring the chloride. So I think that the sense here is that you'll know by your test strip if phosphate is a problem in that moment, and then you'll get to make a decision. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Sort of this next phase after the water quality testing will just be sort of less of the big picture site and more of the zoom in site. So this is the part where you get to know the site. Is there wildlife presence and sign? Is there vegetation? What kind? Maybe some invasive species. Is there erosion or deposition? Have people been using or abusing the site or taking really good care of it? What's out there? What do you see? And this is sort of another opportunity to take some photos and or enter some notes into the Fulcrum app. We like, again, back to what Julie said originally, we really want people to become skilled observers of the watershed and as many people as possible, because the more eyes, the more ears, the more hearts, minds, souls that are out there really caring about this place, the more we know and the more we can watch conditions change and know how to adapt and know how to restore what's wrong. So then there's this moment where you're supposed to feel all peaceful. And you have an opportunity. We're just inviting you to take the opportunity, if you would like, to sit down, get your artsy on, reflect on what you're seeing, read, write, paint, draw, whatever your thing is, and play music, take whatever it is. We're not going to dictate that to you, and we're not going to tell you you have to do this. We're just going to welcome it if you decide that this is interesting, and we're going to try as the summer goes on to sort of support you in doing this or learning how to do this if you're interested. The sky is the limit on what you produce. And here's some magnificent examples that isn't exactly what we're expecting, but would be wonderful and fun. And like I said before, we can invite more people, more different kinds of people into this conversation by not just having this be all about the science, but I think also the different perspectives that this will offer us about how the watershed is changing is really important to us. So we want to capture that. But we also, like I said, want to take good care of this place. And we are participating along with Kaylee as the new intern in the in the Steward Mad River Valley program this year. And it's just a big partnership and collaboration. And we're doing our part at the sites that we have for the volunteers. And like I said, it's always been a part of what Friends has done, but this year we're kind of institutionalizing it into that Fulcrum app. Did you notice trash? What type of trash? How much of trash? These are all things that we can learn more about how the site is being used. And then, get the gloves out and pick the trash up if you're so inclined. That would be lovely. It would be a great way to model to the other users, like how to take care of this place. And you can be an ambassador for the health of the watershed and for the sort of beauty and vitality and wonderfulness of our valley. So like I said, the intention is to track pollutants. So you're going to have the opportunity, if your test strip tests high for phosphate or nitrate, then you have a choice. Did you want to go upstream and explore what we're calling a secondary site? So we're going to have primary sites that you'll choose, and those will be your primary sites. And you could decide that if you have a high level of pollutant, that you can go to your secondary site or to upstream and test those sites for phosphate and nitrate. You wouldn't need to do all of this work at each of those sites, but we're in that attempt to sort of track those pollutants and figure out where they're coming from. We need to go upstream and we need to be nimble. So we invite that also. Or perhaps you have another primary site and you want to head on over to that and get going. This is sort of the sense of the secondary site ideas. Like, here's your primary site, like right on Route 100, main stem of the MAD. Then you got a positive for phosphate. You might want to go to this secondary site that's upstream the Millbrook. Like, is this where it's coming from? Is this what's happening? And if it tests like if your phosphate isn't high up there, then we know that something happened between those 2 points. And that's really important information. So that helps us track those pollutants. And here's the zoom in on that. So we're going to take this learning and try to share it with the community. And there are some steps along the way there. You're going to collect your data. You're going to, have these observations, this data, some photos, perhaps some reflections, some art. You'll communicate that, you'll sort of enter that data, right, into Fulcrum, but also to our dear friend here, Lisa. We're asking that you visit with Lisa after your site visit. And, we're going to be flexible if that doesn't work for you. It could be a phone call. We will have a post field day survey that you can fill out that kind of gives her the information she needs. But ideally, you guys connect somehow and you convey to her what you how it went and what some challenges were, and if there's anything to report that is particularly notable. And one of the reasons that we want to do that is that we are changing the press releases we're sending to the reporter this year. So you might remember that we had the E. coli reports that were published in the reporter 3 days after the sampling, 2 days after we got the results of the data. This year, we're going to try to just share your observations, share your data, share whatever is like a photograph that's particularly wonderful, or sharing a photograph of something particularly wonderful. And the idea is to give people a sense of what this watershed is about, where we're at status-wise with regard to its sort of state of the watershed, basically, and sort of celebrate nature also, and stewardship and all of the things folks are doing to care for it. So we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. It's going to be largely dependent on what you send us, but we will ask you to be able to, if you're willing to share it with us, are you willing to share it with the community? Doesn't necessarily need to have your name on it, but it's awesome if it does. And we have 6 opportunities to put something in the paper. We have more opportunities to put things on our Facebook page, on our website, on our blog. But we will each week have the piece in the reporter, we hope, and it is by necessity going to need to be short and sweet and lovely, and we'll just be excited to see what you offer for us. So we just wanted to share like a big summary of the season. So that was the day and then the week. So checking in with Lisa, the Valley reporter, and then now this is the season. And in general, like what we want to have as outcomes every year of this program moving forward is sort of an identification of water quality priorities for friends to investigate, for us to work with neighbors to resolve. We also want to have opportunities like for that focus, like what do we still need to learn? What do we not know? More focused analysis. And like I said before, we are thinking about that long-term change over time and some trends, and we're trying to follow that too. But this core of skilled observers is really important to this program. It's always been important to this program, and we want to just develop the skills of you all as that's possible, and what we can offer to support that. So the other thing is, in this first year being different than every year after that, like I mentioned before, we're looking for your feedback. We're going to build the methods so that they're stronger, that they, can stand up to all of the questions that you'll throw at us that we're not expecting. And we want to prepare for that second phase where we introduce those several but very high quality data sites, and begin exploring what it looks like for targeted analysis of sub-watersheds. So we know, for example, that we have high phosphate in the High Bridge Brook area. What do we want to do to investigate that specific problem? So that's another piece of sort of our next steps for this program. So as it comes, some next steps, and I have to move your faces. They're covering my screen, so I can't see anything. The things that we're anticipating for you is that if you're after this tonight, you'll get a follow-up email from us, or two actually. One tomorrow will be just a form for you to fill out if you're interested in participating, and asking you what sites are interesting to you, sharing the menu of options with you. There'll be another one next week with some permissions and releases. Some of you veterans are familiar. It's just, do you have car insurance, a driver's license, these sorts of things. And liability release for Friends of the Mad River, and a photo release. And then we'll teach you how to set up Fulcrum on your app. And then we're going to offer that training. So we welcome you to come to the volunteer training on June 3rd or June 6th. And we understand that might not work for one of those dates, may not work for everyone. So just let us know if that's true. And then we're going to get out there and enjoy the field season and learn from each other and observe things and share what we know with the rest of the community as we can. So I wanted to share this beautiful graphic of the Mad River watershed with you. And you see the little Mad River coming out here to the Winooski. I just love this. I didn't draw it. But I want to open it up to questions, and I'm going to close my screen share. And I see that some things have popped up in the chat that I've probably missed because I haven't been able to see it. But so do folks have questions? And you can just unmute yourself and start talking if you want, or wave frantically. Oh, thank you, Ira, for all your chats.
So the E. coli testing, is that the same as before? Has that changed? Is that changing?
Yeah, we will not be doing E. coli testing this year.
At all?
At all. What we were learning in past years was that the E. coli is bad when it rains. And it's still bad when it rains. And we're going to be communicating that and sharing that with the community. But we are in our Sentinel sites next year. When we start the Sentinel sites, we will be testing E. coli and sending it away to a lab for analysis. So this year there'll be no E. coli. And this is one of the things that we're really aware of. The community sort of sees that E. coli as a public health awareness. And it's been really helpful in raising that awareness, but we still know that you shouldn't swim 24 hours after a rain. And so, what
about prominent swim holes like Blueberry Lake? I mean,
Well-
people, it's just swim at your own risk.
Well, and it always has been, because
Yeah.
by the time our data is published on Thursday, it's irrelevant. You know, to people, you know, we've been trying to use the data to teach people the sort of science of it. You know, water comes off the land, takes pollutants with it into the water, or precipitation comes off the land, rolls into the water, brings pollutants with it. But because it took us 24 hours to get the data, you know, the samples had to sit overnight in the incubator. By the time we had the data, by the time it was in the Valley Reporter, by the time it was up at the swim holes, it's really just to share with people that that's the case, that when it rains, it it's an E. coli problem, and that is still true. And so doing that data collection isn't really going to help us know any more about that. And I realize that that's going to be a hard thing for this, potentially for all of us to understand. And I think we thought long and hard about this and got the consultant involved for that reason. And we will be sampling E. coli so that we can watch change over time and really be aware, but we will do that starting with those Sentinel sites next year. Yeah, Mike, you're on mute. Oh gosh, still on mute. Does anyone else have a question while he's trying to figure that out? Yeah, Mary.
So this is probably a newbie question, but the 6 days, are they set, or the twin days, the Sunday, Monday? And what if we happen to be, we know in advance we're going to be out of town for one of those days? Do we arrange to have somebody cover it?
Yeah.
And we can still participate? Okay.
Yeah, and on our website, the dates are there. Maybe Ira, you can pop that link into the chat.
Yep.
And yeah, you can. So, and maybe you're away the Sunday, but not the Monday, and we might be able to figure that out. But yeah, just let us know. We can be flexible.
And I just wanted to say too, that on the Sunday and the Monday, whatever day you do the testing, to make it easier for you to check in with me, I will be at the Friends of the Mad River office the same way I was to collect your samples last year, but both Sunday and Monday from 8 a.m. till noon. And then that way you can show me or ask me questions, and we can communicate at that time as well. So it doesn't have to be that you call me or try to track me down, but I will be there for you when you come back from your testing.
Oh, Mike.
No, nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, well, there will be nothing being posted at any of the swim sites.
Right.
Nothing to report. Nothing to
Well,
post.
we're gonna post the same. We're gonna post what we put in the reporter,
Mm-hmm.
but it won't be E. coli data.
Yeah.
That lesson that Corey's talking about is one that we do plan to sort of reiterate and share, with the community. And it's one that you can also certainly take part in sharing as well. I think that understanding that the risk for swimmers is greatest 24 hours after it rains is probably the most important nugget that can, serve that public health need.
And what's interesting is that when you look back at the data, and this was written up in one of the articles from last summer in the Valley Reporter on our 30th anniversary, with that E. coli data, when straight pipes or when septic problems happened, like when septic leached directly into the Mad River, our data was really good at figuring that out. And that's less of a problem now than it was before. And when we limited the E. coli data only to swim holes, that's not necessarily next to people's septic. So there became kind of a connection in people's minds that that we were capturing all of the data at those few sites, but the E. coli isn't quite like that, where it can accumulate downstream and you don't really know where it's coming from. So it's a little bit of it was really appropriate when there were direct inputs from what we call point source pollution. But now that our main problem across the watershed is stormwater, I mean, this is an adaptation to new challenges, is that now we're really dealing with stormwater runoff as the problem, which is what people call non-point source pollution. And it's less easy to figure out where the E. coli is a problem if you're not continuously moving upstream.
Too, the worry is it's a good lesson to know about E. coli, but people did rely on it to swim safely at the swim holes. And so say we tested Monday morning, we got our results and everything was fine. And then there was a big rain event on Wednesday. The results that went into the paper reflected that everything was fine. And if you didn't read closely, then you would think that it was fine to swim, but it had just rained prior that night before. So the E. coli would have been higher. We just didn't have a chance to capture that. But as both Corey and I are saying, that it's the whole picture that we want to communicate.
Questions, thoughts, observations, concerns?
Corey, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
As a newbie, what is the general health of the Mad River at this point? What do you hope to accomplish by the River Watch 2.0?
Boy, that's a big question, and I could go on for days probably. I'll be super brief. We have some problems. We have a temperature problem. It is way too warm, and Mike can speak to this. Any fisherman can speak to this. We don't have enough trees along the banks of the Mad. We have a sedimentation problem. So that comes from erosion in the uplands. We have a lot of runoff that's kind of moving fast and furious, causing erosion, taking sediment into the water, and filling in all of the habitat. So we have not such great trout and other habitat, and that's due to the temperature and the sedimentation and many barriers that exist, like culverts. We have E. coli problems in the northern stretches of the Mad. And we have phosphorus problems at about 5 subwatersheds. So Highbridge Brook, Folsom Brook, Welder Brook, the other one in Warren with an F.
Freeman.
And we have like some turbidity issues that are known, like Clay Brook is naturally turbid because it's the clay veins are throughout. So that's the quick and dirty summary. There's a lot more to be said. And what we're hoping to do is with Mad River Watch in general is engage people in these observations across the watershed so that we know what's going on, number one. And number two is have a sense of where the problems are happening, and how, if there are trends. So if there's a trend after a rain event, if there's a trend in a certain sub-watershed, if there's a trend high elevation to low elevation, just sort of trying to get our head around it. It's the first level of data before we can investigate further. And it hones us into asking the right questions. I guess, I don't know, Ira or Lisa, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would just say that, two things. One, it's by having volunteers go out and go to these river and tributary sites, with Mad River Watch 2.0, there's also that broad observational lens can allow us to look at other things like wildlife health, wildlife corridors, like the health of the forest. Corey mentioned the trees along the river, looking at the riparian buffers. And so there's a lot of broad-based sort of ecological data that can be captured. And so that leads me to the other point that I would say is that a lot of really successful community science projects are based on sort of really mundane, everyday observations accumulating through time. And then they point to these trends, and they point to particular associations, right? You might start to see, signs of, you might discover, oh, the spot maybe near the bridge near your house, Peter, is like a great spot where deer are crossing or bear are crossing, and you start to see a lot of sign there as you observe closely. And then when we look at that through the conservation commissions or the state level and look at wildlife, corridor planning and forest planning, we might be able to add meaningful information to that conversation. And so there's this really direct line between having sort of keen observers of these different elements of the watershed, out in the community, and our ability to draw connections to broader trends, whether they're climate change related trends, development trends, human use impact trends. So
Great. So observations other than the river itself are important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that I started saying when I think I started this job in 2014, and the river, this is that whole the three-legged stool, like healthy land, clean water, vibrant community. The river really is just a measure of what we're doing well on the land or not so well on the land. And so looking at the water is one piece of it, but looking around is another piece, and really important for the health of the whole watershed.
Corey, Annie and Jula had a question.
Oh, great.
Question.
Wait.
Oh,
Go ahead.
do you want?
No, go ahead, because I
Right,
had that
already.
on mute you.
I just wanted to know, you unmuted me.
You're good.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know, Lisa, is there a certain time in the morning that you'd really, the last time, that you'd really like us to bring the stuff over?
So I plan to be at the office Sundays and Mondays from 8 a.m. till noon. So you guys can decide when you want to do your observations, and I'll just be there between, in that set spot for
Okay,
those.
so that doesn't matter as much to you.
I would just say that there is some benefit to doing it, trying to do it consistently and trying to do it on the earlier side. Not that you have to, but what happens with the temperature readings, especially on some of the sites closer to the main stem, is that, even by, 11 o'clock in the morning, you can see a pretty significant spike in temperature that doesn't correlate with the conditions so much as it does with the, just the heat of the day.
Question. Ideally, how many volunteers would you like to get?
Depends on, ideally hundreds. But realistically, we knew that we would start small, or we suspected we would start small this year. And don't, as we're figuring it out, that's okay with us because we don't want to disappoint anyone. But I think, we have a lot of sites. There could be more sites. We'd be excited to have more sites. And it'd be really great if people were willing to go to those secondary sites if there's a phosphate or a nitrate issue. And so I think we're really open. We're open to lots, and we're open to just a few as we work through the details.
Yeah, yes. And I will just add in that we're basically set up for 20 sites right now, and we pretty quickly, because of the flexibility of the methods we're using, could expand that to other sites.
Yeah, he's got a good point about like how much material we've actually bought.
Yeah.
Well, you should probably think about politics, Corey, because for a straight question, that was a long answer that didn't get anywhere.
All the volunteers.
Yeah, but I will add in this. We've got those 20 sites, and then I think it's 9 of them are specifically tributary sites where we could have people go up to those secondary sites and start, digging up into. So, and if that's the case, you might consider that sort of a 2-for-1.
It'll be different than past years where you've been able to maybe have 5 or 6 sites or 4 sites. You may only be able to do 2 sites in the time that you have.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, Rick.
Hi, Rick.
When can we see the sites that we're maybe interested in sampling?
tomorrow night. We have to finish up our map and get the next little questionnaire out to the group here. But with that, hopefully will be a map and a rough description of the sites so you can make those choices.
And a lot of them will be very familiar to those of you who have done this in the past.
Yeah.
Great,
hopefully very-
great, thanks.
Oh, sorry, Rick. What did you ask something else, Rick? I'm sorry. I guess not.
No, I just wanted to see if they were changing what I was used to doing previously, and just to get used to a new area.
We welcome you to still participate in Moortown, and you'll recognize some of these sites.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm aware it's just one minute past 8 o'clock. We're happy to stay on and answer any other questions if you want to stay on, but I am really excited to see all of you, and we will be in touch tomorrow with an email with some follow-up, like the site map and a survey that just asks for your preferences and ask you if you're interested in being involved. So thanks for attending tonight and trying to learn more, and we'll look forward to seeing you.
Well, super presentation. Thank you.